Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. This is IT Live presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Joe Cook. We got Ian Boyd. We got Justin Wells. We got our normal Thursday crew. So thank you for joining. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, head to InsideTexas.com where you can get all the best insight on recruiting, which we'll talk about a little bit today, opponents, which we'll talk a little bit about today, and Texas offenses, X's and O's. Roaster, thank you as always for joining. But today, hey guys, we're going to talk about Arch Manning a little bit, but we're also going to talk some about the pieces around Arch Manning. And Ian, I was talking with you about this one. Normally, I read your stuff and and I get the connection. And this one, it took me a second until some of your explanations. So we'll talk a little bit about article you wrote about and how there is a new gear for the Texas passing game. You got to mention a lot of that has to do with Arch Manning and the progression passing game, but there are some other factors that are going to lead to success for him that were brought in. But first, you kind of go over what Texas offense looked like last year with Quinn Ewers, Gunnar Helm, and a running game that featured a pretty decent O-line against teams of lesser quality, but good tight ends and good receiving running backs.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about lack of clarity in my writing now from your comments. I think maybe there are some dots that were connected in my head that are not connected on the page. We'll see what people make of it on the board. But there's a few key thoughts here. One is that whenever Sark goes up against like the big time opponents like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and they got to move the ball against teams that you cannot run the ball efficiently against, then Sark will go to spread sets, move the tight end around, throw it to the tight end, throw it to the running backs, and make those big linebackers chase the ball while their big defensive linemen sit around and don't do anything. That's kind of Sark's go-to trump card against those top teams.
And go ahead.
No, that's one thought. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned, Ohio State, Georgia. Those were teams. Those were games where Texas, they had some success running the ball, but Georgia not really. But I'm trying to pull up the stats. But I think there's also something to be said about Michigan as well. You look at both Georgia games, Texas totaled 60 yards rushing on 55 carries. And that includes sacks, which there were plenty, not good. You look at the Ohio State game, 29 rushes, 58 carries. Heck, you even look at Arizona State, 30 rushes, 58 carries. Sacks have to do with that. And I think I wanted to bring up Michigan because that was a 55-yard run or so that Wingo had. I'm not a big takeaway and guy because he still did that. We all saw him running down the sideline. If you take away 55 yards from the Michigan game, that is at 23 carries for about 25 yards. So against these big defenses that you talk about Texas playing, and even Kentucky, they were terrible running, but I think that has to do with the sack totals. They weren't great at running the football. They really struggled to get it there. And so that's why, as you mentioned in the article, they go lateral. They go dink and dunk a little bit, try to spread things out with screens, and the numbers really bear that out. And I'm glad you brought up Michigan there too. Alabama's a little bit of an outlier, I guess, just because they hit those big shots.
Yeah.
But you see in these other games that the yards per attempt, which if you have a good passing offense and Sark system, what's the number you probably want? Approaching 8.5?
Yeah, 9 even.
Okay.
Mac Jones is like 11-2 or something insane.
So, Justin, this just kind of feeds into, you look at Alabama 23. They didn't run the ball well. They ran it at the end, but they ran it pretty well, or didn't run it well. Michigan, one Ryan Wingo run. Georgia, one big DeAndre Moore pass play was their big chunk play. And then Ohio State, they couldn't run. This is why Quinn Ewers kind of got that reputation as a check down guy, dink and dunk, all that stuff.
You know, it's surprising because I felt like they ran the ball better against Michigan. I didn't realize it was that low because they were effective when they ran it. I mean, of course, we saw that was the first time we saw Baby Rhino, Jarrett Gibson, be effective and make an impact. So you didn't even notice it in that game. But Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, aren't those all games where, Quinn threw for over 300 yards or almost 300 yards, I guess out of necessity. I guess he had to in that regard.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to, the running back room last year it was a surprise that CJ Baxter was out for the year, Christian Clark. So they had to retool a little bit. No one expected Trey Wisner to do what he did. Nobody. And now he's going into the season as the unquestioned starter. And so, Quinn, I'd say in some cases Quinn saved their tail here. In others, I didn't realize they were so less effective running the ball. Ohio State and Georgia, absolutely. It almost felt like they bailed out on the run in those two games. But the first Alabama game, I felt like they ran the ball in the fourth quarter.
They did. There were spurts where they did it.
That final 8-minute drive or whatever it was. They were pretty effective running the rock, and so, I think the numbers bear that out though.
They were able to get back to it at the end, but they had to open it up and wear Alabama out by running Jatavian Sanders sideline.
He had a big game that night at Alabama, right? He had 3 or 4 major catches.
Yep.
They
5 catches for 114 yards, apparently, unless some of that was Helm, and I don't remember exactly.
Oh, there it is right there. It's right in front of my face.
Yeah.
He had that 60-yard catch and run on an intermediate pass. So it's one of those things where that's why Quinn was asked to do a lot. That Michigan game, they controlled the clock through passing. It looked like the Washington Sugar Bowl, where they just hold the ball for 3 quarters because they are completing passes of a different type. And that's where you start to get into where that happened. And it talks a little bit about, the linebackers being where teams target. I'm not going to say his name. I was about to think of a former player that would fit this mold, but 250 pounders aren't playing middle linebacker anymore unless they're super athletic freaks who move 230 pounders. That's why Jalen Ford played at 230-ish. That's why Anthony Hill's an athletic freak playing at 240. Georgia had them. They limited this. And Ian, oh, by the way, Texas couldn't run the ball against these good defenses. And that's kind of the big issue here. We'll see what happens there, but what you get into is that because some of these guys that Texas is going to be running around in maybe some of these intermediate and short routes, they'll be effective there, but they'll also be effective elsewhere because of their own skills and then because obviously who's there at quarterback.
So they even Arizona State, actually, they couldn't run the ball in Arizona State, which was I believe that's mostly why that game was so close. It's that the expectation was you can run the ball on this team, put them away, survive and advance. And instead they were, fighting for their lives late in that game. And Quinn had to convert 4th and 13 to make it work. So their strategy against these teams has been to attack the linebackers, make them chase plays out to the perimeter, run past conflicts with the tight end leak, check downs, spread sets. And then in that SEC championship game against Georgia, in particular in these gifts below, Sark drew up some like shot plays for Quinn, where you have guys running around the field in different patterns and crossing patterns and things, but it wasn't actually a progression. It would be designed to spring a particular guy open, often DeAndre Moore. And so they're like, okay, Georgia is all over our running backs in the swing passes. They're all over Gunnar Helm. We got to figure out a way to spring Moore and our receivers open in a way that Quinn can hit them. And so he did that, and it worked until they got to the red zone, right? And then they couldn't punch it into the red zone, and then Sideshow Burt would miss the field goal attempt. So it all went flat there.
And then when you look at Georgia, when you look at even Ohio State, like when you have Jalen Walker running around and Malachi Starks running around and even Smail Mondin, who I don't think played in the first game, played in the second game, like they can track, they can get there in a hurry to where a lot of those screens that sometimes get you 4, 5, or 6 are getting you 2 or 3 because those guys get there so quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they tried to free things up a little bit. And here you can kind of see right here how they would try fourth quarter. Okay, so here you can see DeAndre Moore. Let me zoom in a little bit more. You can see DeAndre Moore starting his motion. These defensive backs probably switched. There's a linebacker right there. And so let's see how this gets going. So boom, rub, a lot of traffic over the middle. That's Malachi Starks following him, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like
hard to defend.
2 different routes that he's got to go through. And it looks like is this what, cover 1 or something? Maybe.
They're 2-man, I think.
Yeah. So they would try to free up over the middle with guys like Moore, but it was to varying levels of success. Let's see, overtime. So I know the ball goes to the back here, but you'll see this play kind of stop before it starts just by watching what happens over the middle and where the linebackers are. Covered, nothing. So it's like, okay, got to hit the check down.
That crosser may have actually been open there. I don't know if Quinn had time to get it off or not. He kind of went to the running back maybe a little too early.
Do you have the play where they faked the wide receiver screen and Gunnar Helm leaked out down to the sideline and Quinn just missed him?
No, but that's exactly the kind of thing that they'd like to rely on. I mean, they do that a lot anyway.
That was a great play design. It was perfect. Everything was there. The throw was just a little too hard, too far.
They usually hit those too.
I know.
Quinn was pretty good on those usually. He had so many of those.
So we'll get into where Texas can probably find more success running some of these plays in a second. But first, a word from Academy. And that's where you can get Jordan. Academy Sports and Outdoors is your new home for Jordan. Gear up today and take flight on the court, off the court, and above the court. Unleash your greatness with head-to-toe Jordan gear for the entire family. Available in-store and at academy.com. Elevated styles and shoes for everyone. Unstoppable like Jordan value every day. And plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1-hour in-store curbside pickup on academy.com orders. You can also choose same-day delivery powered by DoorDash. Order by 4, get it by 8. Check out the full Jordan selection today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. And gentlemen, if you ask Justin Wells, you don't just have to get the numbered shoes. You can get all their lifestyle stuff, all the trainers, I guess you call them, just kind of their tennis shoes. You're a connoisseur of that stuff, and I know.
It's game time.
Oh, man. So, Ian, what you mentioned is that 2 additions in the returning of Arch Manning is going to help Texas, they're going to try to have that deep passing game improve. But there's also other areas of the passing game they want to improve, and Endries and Mosley can help with that regard when they're looking for 1 over the middle, 2 over the middle, and then, whatever 3 might be.
Yeah. Mosley, whether he plays in the slot like we suspect, or even if he plays outside, he's really good at working the middle of the field, catching balls in traffic, being tough when the linebacker pops him after the catch or the safety. And Jack Endries, same deal at tight end. So they're going to go from – you would have been nice if they'd been there for spring, is what it is. They're going to have 2 more guys this year that are really good in those sorts of quick timing routes over the middle. Whereas, a few months ago, we did not know if Texas was going to have that. Because it was all young tight ends, and we didn't know if any of them would be able to start. And then it was maybe DeAndre Moore in the slot, who's like more of like a burner. Like, he's pretty good over the middle, but he's also like a kind of a deep threat kind of guy. So that really transforms the room. And it unlocks something that we've seen in small doses from March Manning, which is that he's capable of standing in the pocket, working through progressions, and setting his feet so that he can get the ball out and go like 1, 2, throw, 1, 2, 3, throw, and hit those on time and with accuracy. Quinn didn't set his feet very well in the pocket. If the throw wasn't there at the top of his drop, he didn't make quick decisions consistently, and he got jittery with his footwork, and he would start looking for check down, which he was very effective at those sometimes. Check down, or he would do the thing where we would complain about where he'd like wander into traffic and just kind of like put his heads down and take a sack. With Arch, you have a higher ceiling now to actually throw the ball over the middle to your slot or your tight end or somebody like that.
Sometimes it helps to be 6'4",
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt, especially playing quarterback. So this is from the spring game when he lit it up. Let's see if I can identify the numbers. I doubt I can.
This one is to Niblet. And he hits that. That one's actually like a deeper throw, but you can see he's not afraid to stick it under the safety and over the linebackers when he knows that window is there.
I think kind of also to your point, you can see him. Let me try to zoom in one more. Where are we at? Oh, there we go. You can see him. Watch at the very beginning, and this is something you'll get into in a second. He looks at the top of the screen, and then he gets into, finding the guy that's open. He hoping that, I think that's Helm up top. So maybe that's a little bit more of a decoy, but it's not always one. Maybe that's Livingstone. Hard to tell there. Not used to seeing Texas wearing white at home. But here's another example. Let's see. No, that was Helm. So there's Helm. Can't tell who else is around him. But watch over the middle.
And they have Golden running like a dig or an in route behind him. It's like Helm has to settle in space. And if he ends up going out and taking the underneath defenders with him, then the in route is there.
There's also something to note. Watch the Mike linebacker, the strong side middle linebacker. He's the guy on the near hash. Is that Anthony Hill? Or maybe it's Maurice Blackwell. Guy on the near hash takes a drop, and that removes that route that DeAndre Moore was running. That was probably the primary one. But then he's able to recognize, not there. Like, that's a good drop. That's good defense. So you take what the defense gives you.
Yeah. And the tight end settled in the right spot too, which is important.
And so
run into a defender on accident.
So what some of these plays look like, let me find where it was. Okay. is that Helm was a good receiver. Jaden Blue and Wisner were good receivers. Moore, you said, kind of is a little bit different fit for over the middle, especially now that you have Jack injuries and now you have Emmett Mosley there to be those guys who get the tough receptions over the middle.
Yeah. So here's the play of the sort that you could do more of or see more of from Texas next year. They would run like versions of this. This specific one, they would run it, and Quinn would basically just always throw that wheel route that I tagged as alert. So the idea of this play would be like you hike the ball, the quarterback looks, and first he makes sure that the defense doesn't botch the wheel route. Because if they screw up the exchange, like the nickel tries to give it to the corner and the corner doesn't pick it up or whatever, if that wheel route is running wide open because they botch it, then you just chuck it, touchdown, easy. But if they do cover it, then you need to actually do the progression and you work, and there's a shallow cross coming from the other side of the field, and that's your first one you look at after the wheel, down to the shallow. If they run with the shallow, there's probably a window behind, throw to the slot in the middle of the field. He's basically just trying to find open space. And if everything's covered, then you throw to the running back on the check down, or you take off and run, or you take a sack, or you throw interception, whatever, And you have to make quick decisions. You have to move your feet, and you got to zip the ball in on time. Because the progression, you're basically racing the defense. The defense is following your eyes, and they're trying to cover the guys that your eyes are going to. So when you go to the next guy, you have to see it and throw it before the defense realizes that you've moved, and then they're moving back to cover it. And this is not something that happened very much in the last 3 years.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because Justin, sometimes the idea of one person, the echo chamber happens, and especially over on Inside Texas, it's like we never attack the middle of the field, and you never see the Longhorns throw over the middle of the field, and they do, but that probably is an indication people haven't seen it as much as they want to. And the reasons why it could work in 25 are some of the reasons why it hadn't worked in the years prior.
It's funny. I think Texas is trading in speed for good route running and great hands and possession guys, almost in a sense, in 2025. The last 2 years have been speed merchants on the outside. And trust me, there's still speed in that locker room, but you got some bigger guys. You got a Jack Injuries. You've got an Emmett Mosley. Those are just kind of a little bit different than what we were used to, even though Injuries is similar to Helm. I think you're going to hit – Texas is going to get what the defense gives them. I think Sark is going to let Arch figure that out. With Quinn, the plays were designed. It wasn't so much progression led. With Arch, I think it's going to be the opposite. They're going to draw up some plays where he can, trademark Ian Boyd, throw bombs, Arch throwing bombs. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a playoff of what he reads. And to me, I think that makes him more effective. And if that means if they can run the football against the bigger programs, throwing across the middle won't be that big of a deal. It's kind of it kind of comes at you two ways. So,
Ian, yeah, how does that fit into all this? Because you do mention it in the article, the ability to run, and I think you almost, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you wrote this as if they can't run it great, here's an option.
Yeah,
right. That's what I got from it.
How might running the football make this easier? Because I mean, you could put, I guess, on this play, you could run a play fake to R if you wanted to. You would have to switch his side, but you could run a play fake to R.
You've got a quarterback that has been working on his play action since he came out the womb. But he wants to show it.
But how might running the football effectively is going to help play action? How much does it help, or does it even help this type of passing?
Some, to quote Tom Herman,
Doesn't it just keep the defense honest?
I mean, if they can run the ball and use play action to help the run, then this stuff doesn't have to matter as much. This is like higher level, more difficult stuff that you get into when you just cannot impose your will and you cannot get enough run pass conflict to get guys open. This is like Colt McCoy type stuff, where those Colt McCoy teams were not imposing their will. They were barely able to impose their will on like middle of the road Big 12 teams. But they could do this timing stuff with Shipley against anybody. Nobody can stop it, basically. So it's just another way of attacking linebackers if your play action, run game, run pass conflict stuff is not doing the trick. Then you get into this, you spread them out, you start making them chase guys laterally. And so it's almost like two different realms, two different philosophies. Although this stuff is definitely easier if you can run the ball at least a little bit, because this stuff does get extremely hard if the defense doesn't respect your run game.
Yes.
And they take their big, heavy linebackers off the field and put in extra safeties or whatever. Now, that gets really hard. That's the kind of thing that Colt McCoy would have to deal with all the time in 2009. And
I think he would have had to deal with that against Alabama in the second half, because I think Bama would have tried to take away the pass even more and force them to go to Trey Newton and go to Colt running the ball more. It would have been an adjustment they would have had to make, but I think Texas would have had a pretty good lead going into the half or coming out of the half anyway.
Bama played dime that whole game. They were doing
right, but I'm thinking they would have gotten out of dime if Colt continues to play that game.
Yeah, maybe. Colt, don't get me started.
No, I know.
They were going to rip that. They were going to rip that team apart.
Yes, they were. And you know who knows it best? Little Nicky. Mr. Co-Chair of the Presidential Commission, Nicky. He knew.
To be a fly on that wall in that room.
Can you imagine him and Cody Campbell looking at each other and Nick basically going, the hell are you doing here? I'm not drilling wells. The best part is Tech thinks this is going to help them.
Yeah, I don't see.
You're still in the Big 12. You're still in Lubbock, buddy. Nothing's going to change.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah,
absolutely.
The thread on Inside Texas was like, oh no, Tech's going to attempt to put influence out there, and maybe they'll try. But I think it probably has more to do with. I think Cody Campbell likes this. Cody Campbell's become a face of this NIL operation in the way it's currently structured. You know, hey, I've got $1 billion. I mean,
when you have a blank checkbook, you become more important.
Phil Knight is like that, but Phil Knight isn't out there
behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Phil's got people doing work for him. You know, Phil doesn't have time for this.
Right.
Cody Campbell has all the time. Didn't he just liquidate a bunch of his assets? Didn't he sell Double Eagle? He's got nothing but time now. And look, that guy has been great for Texas Tech. So tip your cap. They have played the game and they're playing it well. They just signed a really nice transfer portal class. They overspent for a good chunk of it, but you know what? Let them learn that lesson. That's new rich is what we call that in East Texas.
Here's the thing about Cody Campbell. Nick Saban, there's no way he was going to try to steer this in a way that benefited Texas.
No!
Cody Campbell, whatever Cody Campbell is wanting to do, is something that absolutely benefits Texas. So Texas fans should be looking at Cody Campbell's inclusion in this as like, he's basically your man.
You have a hard time selling me on that one.
It's going to be good for Goose, good for Gander.
Yes.
Okay.
Cody Campbell's going to do whatever's will help him be able to continue to support.
And you think that's going to benefit Texas in some form or fashion?
They'll be doing something similar.
Yes, because the way Nick Saban is going to want to try to put caps to stop teams with billionaires from being able to spend money like they want. And Cody Campbell is going to do the exact opposite. And Texas wants more of the opposite. Like some limits, fine. I mean, what the game really needs are contracts so that it's not a cesspool with players running everywhere. So, Ewer's agent Slavin did an interview with your boy Justin in Waco, Smokey. And he had a good point at the end of it where it's like college football is turning into AAU, where there's no loyalty anywhere and guys are not developing chemistry or developing within a program. There's going from place to place to place while street agents guide them there so that they can pocket as many commissions and as many extra money as they can. And it's garbage. It's bad for the game and it's bad for the players. So the big change they need is contracts. It's not how much money kids are making or who's allowed to pay kids. It's that. So
I actually you're talking about the Ron Slavin interview.
Yeah.
I actually reached out to Smokey yesterday after I watched that, and I told him I appreciated him holding his feet to the fire a little bit on that one, because it was there was some inaccuracies in that. There was some embellishment in that. But you know what? I mean, that's the agent's job to talk. Some of them, all of them talk. Some of them actually do some great work behind the scenes. Others don't do any good work behind the scenes. So I gave Smokey props on that one because Slavin was shoveling it pretty thick.
There was
That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do in that job. But I love that Smokey kind of held him to the fire. If you want to come on and prop yourself up as this, well, let's actually ask the right questions.
Yes, there's a lot of interesting stuff in that interview. I thought he made good points at the end of it. Slavin did.
Ian, you got to go to the thread on people. There's a thread on Inside Texas where I think, and I understand this completely, like anybody from another school, especially another in-state school that gets some sort of position of power because of the whole Big 12 exit fiasco, every thought immediately goes to they're going to try to screw Texas. But like, how do I say this the right way?
I think he would if he could.
I think he would if he could.
Our incentives align.
Yes. And that's also like, that's not what this task force, this task force isn't a witch hunt for the Texas Longhorns football program. You know, like that's not what it is. And they're not going to make rules for one that don't apply to the other, because then, you know, who's got good general counsel? The University of Texas. You know, that's something
you can ask Tom Herman about that.
Yeah. So it's just going to be one of those things where, Ian, I think you said it best. Like Saban is probably going to be on the coach side.
Very much.
He's a little bit more uniquely suited to be maybe so much on the administrative side. And the administrative side is they want something that's not the NCAA, so Congress, to make a law so they can all operate under it, all 50 states. We'll see what happens. I think you're right, and Campbell will push for things that will obviously benefit Texas Tech and his efforts out there. But at the same time, if it allows for him to do that in Lubbock, it's going to allow for Texas. It's going to allow for USC. It's going to allow for Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia to do all similar types of things. So
and let's not forget, this wasn't the only interview Slavin has done in the last few days. He's gone on kind of a radio row of these things to try to explain why his client fell so much in the draft. And my whole point is the draft's over. He found a spot. He's in Miami. He's actually in, I think, a better spot than I was expecting. I think that's a really good spot for Quinn if everything can work out. To me, it looks petty. It looks like I'm trying to save face for my client. Buddy, you're not fixing anything. He's not going to go back into a draft and go up 3 or 4 more rounds in the next one. Like, it's over. It's like The Sopranos. It's over. Move on to the next show.
You notice that why was he making this case on a radio station in Central Texas in Waco?
Because Smokey will give him a platform. That's one.
And because he's represented Baylor players in the past.
Yes,
he wants to represent in-state Texas players in the future.
It gives him a megaphone.
So he needs to go out there and explain to other Texas players. Like, you hear him, he dropped notes on how many endorsement deals he got Quinn Ewers in college. He was explaining why transferring for her final year wasn't a winning play for Quinn. Basically, all this stuff to be like, I didn't screw this up. Please keep hiring me Texas football players. I'm so much better than street agents or whoever else.
I think that'll be a good place to.
Maybe another player off his block in South Lake will be a prospect one day.
Surely.
Maybe that'll be a good time to transition to a little bit of recruiting. I know the title says offseason storylines. We'll get to that in a little bit, but you guys have been doing a little research. It's time for recruiting to jump into overdrive. And we've been doing some really, really extensive research into film on some of the top prospects Texas is after. We're going to talk about a little bit of a quartet today because Ian got his chance to dive into the recruiting world. And we're going to start out in California. And Ian, we're talking Mark Bowman. You said when you got to watch his film, you got pretty darn excited.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best high school prospects I've ever seen Texas recruit.
And he's a reclassified 16-year-old. That give you some perspective?
It's like, okay, this one is a good one. This one and some of the blocking clips. You see him cut, change direction immediately accelerate.
That's some Dallas Clark stuff right there.
He moves like Brock Bowers.
I'll give you that too. Yes, because he almost runs hunched like a fullback.
And he's got like that acceleration and change of direction that you don't expect to find in somebody that big.
Yeah, I mean, he's got he's got some receiver tools,
yeah,
which every great tight end we've ever seen does. That's what makes them great.
Here's the thing, though.
But he'll get physical.
Yeah. He's a sophomore, right, in this film?
Sophomore
like that. This is his next to last year in high school.
Yeah,
look at him mauling people.
Second year. This is his second year on varsity.
Y'all lost me. Those explanations have confused me. All I know is this. Normally, you don't see 6'4", 230-pound people move like that. And when you do, they sure as heck do not block like that. All their they focus on translating that skill almost exclusively to route running. And they don't look at him freaking mauling somebody on an RPO where they don't even end up running the ball. That is so incredibly rare in high school tight end prospects to be that physical and that powerful.
Buddy, his genetics
both the blocking
his genetics
and the route
are
running.
so good.
Well, yeah.
And his dad played college ball. His mom was a big-time volleyball player. Charles Coward has a really good question here. Joe, if you want to get that. How motivated is Texas to sign him? Charles, this is what I would ask you. How motivated are you to take your next breath? How motivated are you to pay your mortgage and feed your children and attempt to make your wife happy? Well, then that's how motivated Texas is. They don't get much more motivated than this. Jeff Banks has known Mark Bowman since he was in 8th grade. This recruitment has been going on a long time. Highly motivated is what I would say. So,
Ian, I'm curious of your perspective, and this may apply to some other conversations we have in a bit, but like there are 4 and 5 stars all over the field wearing red and white right now. I think Chris Henry may be in this one. I don't know. Caden Dixon Wyatt.
Henry's probably not if this is last year because he didn't play most of the year. But he could be, but he didn't play most of that year.
Caden Dixon Wyatt.
Yeah.
I think that quarterback, I think he went to Fresno, so still like a G5 quarterback. Are you still seeing things where it's like this guy's making plays independent of whatever's around him?
Yeah, he's putting defensive ends in the dirt. his movement skills are not dictated by what's going on around him. Like you can turn on a dime and accelerate like this at 230 pounds, or you can't. And for 99.9% of people, they can't. So yeah, I don't think that's.
That's why I compare him to George Kittle.
Yeah, Kittle for sure.
And you know, sometimes fans, they love that. They love those NFL comps. Some of them, you know, they roll their eyes. Oh, hold up, guys. This is one of those that might be pretty close to the real thing. He's elite. There's a reason he's the number 2 rated tight end, and the only reason he's number 2.
He's number 2.
There's a guy in, I think, North Carolina, Zendre Harrison, I think is his name, and he is just a gigantic athletic freak. He is in no way skilled or refined like Bowman, but he's one of those guys that when you see kids walk across the stage during the NFL draft, that's what they look like. And so raw as it gets, but I wish I had his measurements. He is big, fast, and strong. That is, for whatever reason, that is why. And he's a year older than Bowman, and maybe they're holding that against him too. But I mean, Mark Bowman's the best tight end regardless of class in the country.
I haven't seen a lot of guys in this class, so I could very easily be wrong. My initial instinct is that having Bowman number 2 in a class is stupid. And having him number 2 at his specific position is even dumber. So
all right.
I don't know. Now I could be very wrong. I could be very wrong because I haven't actually watched these guys. So take that with a grain of salt. But I'm seeing things.
No one else is looking like Mark Bowman. I can assure you of that.
I have watched recruits with you guys for a while now.
You've been doing this for us for a long time.
And I've not seen this before. So
we got a few more recruits to talk about before we keep going, though. One word from our other sponsor, that is Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
We're going to stick with the skill positions real quick. We're going to go to East Texas. Justin, we talk about this kid a lot on our recruiting shows. But Ian, you got a chance to watch how he operates. And I think for anybody who may not be familiar, Carth, they're 4A, right? They are the standard when it comes to 4A football in facilities and talent and everything. And this is one of the guys who has helped carry the load for Carthage over the past couple of years, and KJ Edwards. When it comes to small school guys, I take notice of big stadium highlights because it means they made it to a certain level. Sometimes that's because of them. Sometimes it's because of their team. But Ian, when you got to watch KJ Edwards, who I think On3 is like a top 50 guy, what did you notice from his playing tape?
I love the way he moves. He's quick. He threatens multiple running lanes. I am cautious about the fact that every time he gets the ball, it seems like he can run any direction he wants. And no matter where he goes, his line is mauling people and creating space for him. So it feels like he could go left or right every play, and he has a two-way go. And he has a lot of wiggle and acceleration. So you're seeing the kinds of things that you want to see. Just watch his freaking line and look at how long it takes on most of these plays before anyone is even in position to touch it.
That's the funniest part. Like, there's angles for like 0.2 seconds, and then they're gone immediately because nobody's in position to actually capitalize on that. I wish there was a clip of him from his sophomore year. He did a jump stop, against Lance Jackson in the playoffs, and Lance was frozen like a statue. He just goes like a jump cut and just accelerated, exploded, went for like 55 yards and a touchdown. I think Carthage has knocked Pleasant Grove out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. I know I was at one of them. Hell, I think I was at both of them, matter of fact. But that move against Lance Jackson convinced me. And I remember when I went to see Carthage a couple years ago, Coach Surratt had brought that play up. He's like, you want to see what that looks like, what it looks like going against a 5-star? And I'm like, holy moly. And that was the beginning of my KJ Edwards love fest.
To that point, Ian, wasn't that somewhat, and I'm not comparing them as prospects because they're very different, but like, wasn't that part of the concern for one of the few concerns about Bijan coming out of high school? Like or maybe it was a little bit different because I mean, you talked about movement skills with Bowman, and you can see Edwards basically run past literally everybody on the field.
Yeah.
Maybe with Bijan, it was more about using his quickness to avoid the wash that his offensive line couldn't make. I'm just trying to think, like,
Bijan didn't have an offensive line like this. He's got God's gift to O-lines in high school. Like, you're not going to find a better front five. Carthage is just renowned for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, Carthage.
Think about KJ. Here's another thing about KJ. They also had another weapon at running back. They have a fullback named Benny Smith, who's about 220 pounds and fast. And every time they would pop a few to the outside with KJ, it would push the pressure all to the outside of the defense. They'd run Benny Smith up the middle. Against Pleasant Grove, Benny Smith was their leading rusher. I think he had two touchdowns in that game. So he's had a lot of toys around him to make his game look nicer, but the speed is undeniable. The quickness is undeniable. His feet, his vision, and I like his balance. The first guy doesn't get him. I mean, hell, the first guy doesn't touch him sometimes. But, the bigger he gets, he's at 190 pounds now. I think that's going to help him so much.
If he could be like this at like 210.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that. But, yeah, I mean, I wish. And I'm not saying he can't, but he's creeping along that now. He's maintained his speed at the 185, 190 range. His little brother's speed is different, though. Oh, man. His little brother would fly by him.
He moves great. The vision, the jump cut, I like all that. If he can play that way, just 200 plus, that's going to be really good. The Carthage, man, it feels like a
junior college playing a high school team.
Yeah, or like it's like they have 6A talent. And they're playing against like small schools. I don't know how they have so much talent every year.
I do.
It's not just, they always have like the skill talent guy, the running back, the receiver that's awesome. They always have that guy who's like a 4-star, 5-star level player. But then they also have the like Alito,
a dozen 3-star level, college level guys that have no egos. That just the team.
Or like a dozen like low 2-star future FCS guys.
Yep.
That are like, sure, it doesn't seem like they're great. They're not going to go to the
big school, but they're still going to go to a nice school.
But they're still going to get a scholarship to play football, and they're still way better than your average high school player.
There are people in that area. They have 2 linebackers, DeQuivius Beck, Carson Edwards. I think Edwards may be committed to Texas State. DeQuivius Beck, A&M, SMU, Baylor, all in the mix, OU. There are people that think he's better than Beck. And that's the point Ian's making. Like, you've got your 4 stars, and then you've got all these ancillary players that are going to play at the next level. It's ridiculous. Coach Surratt runs that thing like a fine-tooth comb, and I'm going to be sad. I think he's going to be out when Jet Surratt, his son, after his senior year, I'm going to be really sad. That's going to be something high school football in Texas. That's going to change for a long time because I think he's going to wind up setting these records so far out. I don't know if anybody's going to ever be able to catch him because he's still young. That's
what college is he going to go to as an assistant when he?
Well, I'll tell you this: he can go to any he wants. He's had colleges coming at him for the last 5 to 10 years, but he's always wanted to coach his son. He loves where he's at. I think he might want to be an OC right off the bat, and I don't know if college coaches are ready to just slide him into that rather than go through a position and maybe work your way into that. Because, I don't know if Scott was going to want to do that, but at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. But KJ and Jet, they still got another run left.
You should talk to Jeff Traylor.
They're great friends. I would
Traylor
be shocked if he wasn't a coach on the UTSA staff.
So here's this from Alan McAda. Hey, if this line's doing a lot of work, that means KJ knows how to let the line do their job, right? Yeah, but but for this is like he's playing on easy mode. When he gets to college, it's gonna be like, okay, I have this amount of time to hit the hole instead of this amount of time, and I missed it. That may be the concern, but that's something you may not have to ask a freshman running back to do right away.
I like his speed. I think he's got an element of speed that this running back room is missing right now.
I'm about to set you off, Justin, with Christian's comment.
There's 12 state champs now. If it was 1999 before, Surratt wouldn't have 10. All right.
I disagree with that.
If you combine 4A,
well, no, who's a better? Yeah, well, if you didn't do the Division I, Division II thing,
he's still going to win.
Yeah, I don't.
Every 4A school he's ever played, he beats 5A. What's this guy talking about? Like, because every time we go to state and we think, man, I would really like to see 5A D1 and 5A D2, the winners, like really go at it. There's been some times where those would have been outstanding games. And, of course, there's the split because that's how they do it in UIL. But I think with Carthage, there would never be a question. You just watch the games.
You have
to play the other 4A champ and spank them just like the one he did before. They don't play close state championships. They don't.
That's like saying, what if Duncanville had to beat another 6A team? It's like, great.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find something real quick.
He's got a point. I think with most programs, that would be tough since the playoff, it's so much easier now to grab a ring than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Man, when I played, only 1 and 2 teams went to the playoffs in the district. It wasn't anything. It was the district champ and the runner-up. There was nobody else coming through. And so I think he makes a good point. It just doesn't fit with Carthage. They would run every team in 4A. They would run half the teams in 5A. There's a reason those holds are ginormous. There's a reason there's 13 college-level players on that team right now, and that's not counting the move-ins or the 8th graders moving up in June.
That's they're like the select team that goes and plays in like a rec league,
Practice.
And just for practice and just mops the floor with everybody. It's really unfair what's going on with Carthage. They should have
everybody outside of Carthage will tell you that. It's so unfair. It's so unfair. And that, you know what that does? That makes Scott Surratt more hungry. He wants one for the he wants the 10.
Second thumb.
Yeah, he's Scott Surratt is one of the best coaches I've ever met in my life. He is unbelievable. And people always ask me, what's the secret to Carthage? And I'll tell you, it's not all the players. It's how hard Surratt coaches his coaches. He really leads them and directs them and puts them on the right path and holds them to a crazy standard. Go watch a practice for 2 hours. Surratt is not hollering at players.
I'm trying to see if I can find.
He's hollering at his coaches.
I'm trying to see if I have. I don't have an up-to-date Dave Campbell's, so I have an old one. Okay, here we go. Yeah, whatever. We'll find it later. But okay, here we go. Carthage won titles in probably since 08, 09, 010, 13, 16, 17, 19, 20, and then he's won 2 more? since then. So that means there would be. I mean, I just struggle to think of another 3A and then now 4A school that would be favored against Carthage and they're Division I too. They're the big school.
I've watched Carthage play in the state championship 7 or 8 times in the last decade. The only close game they played was in 2013 when they played district rival Kilgore. That's the only close game. That was a 1-touchdown game, and it was a 1-possession game with 3 minutes left, and Blake Bogenschutz decides to run a quarterback draw, and that's it. Like, Kilgore couldn't counter for that. But that was another East Texas power in 4A that they had already battled each other, and then they had to meet each other again at the state championship. Carthage, unless you're in 4A in East Texas, around the rest of the state, they just don't throw the hands. Will they ever go to 5A? I wouldn't be surprised if there's a reclassification, but I think they're going to make sure they stay 4A.
I mean,
that day, that week where the UIL counts the kids, I think there'll be a few that don't show up to school.
All right.
It used to be prevalent. Like, that used to be a big deal. Like, a section of kids would miss a week of school just for that damn census.
All right. Let's finish up with a couple big offensive linemen.
Chris Bennett. Keontae Ingram was from Carthage, just like his brother Moochie Dixon, who was picked up by the New Orleans Saints last week.
Yeah. Let's finish up with a couple big offensive linemen. Ian, you got to watch Felix Ojo. Texas feels pretty good about the 5-star offensive tackle. I don't see him playing any other position, but what were some of the big things you saw when watching his tape?
I think he moves his feet well, and he's super long. He's like 6'7", right? So
he's legit 6'7".
It's like impossible to get around him because he moves too well and he's got too much reach. So it's just a matter of if and when he gets to 310, 320 pounds. Because like right now,
he's not far from that, Ian.
Right now, he's listed at 270 right now. That's what he looked like on this junior film. I'm sure.
Yeah, he's a little bigger now, but I'm with you. I'm with you.
The only questions with him would be, at that height, can he push people in the run game, and can he absorb a power rush from a big, powerful defensive lineman? And those are both just a matter of.
I think he's got the power thing, but I think you're onto something with the run blocking.
It's just a few years of eating, technique, and strength training, and it's hard to see those problems not being resolved.
Especially with a kid with his personality, who is incredibly self-motivated, incredibly competitive, especially in with his position. He has the mentality to do everything you could possibly want.
I mean, people have a split of opinion over who's better between him and the next guy we're about to talk about. I don't think there needs to be a split of opinion. You can enjoy both. They're both really dang good. One may have
We're probably going to play together, Joe. So I think that's how people should view this.
And one may have a cleaner tackle fit, but that doesn't mean that the other's
got a cleaner run fit.
Right. And that is talking about.
They're kind of complementary if you think about it.
Yeah. We'll talk. And of course, we're talking about John Turntine from North Crowley, one of the best high school programs in the state at this point. Ian, what'd you see from the North Crowley product state champion offensive lineman?
I watched him a little bit the other day, but I also had watched him during North Crowley's playoff run. And he is so powerful.
He's got Kelvin Banks' strength.
He hits people and they go backwards. He's just effortlessly driving people all the time. And his side of the line is just getting caved in every time. I think Turntine can be a left tackle.
Yes.
If he plays with Ojo, maybe it's right tackle. But he's like a sure thing because it's like, could he slide inside the guard if the kick step just won't come for him?
Yeah.
Although I think it will.
But
if he just couldn't figure out tackle, he's a lock to be an awesome guard. So I understand Ojo being ranked higher because he's a cleaner fit at left tackle, and left tackles are
It's
more
because
valuable.
of the measurables, Ian.
Yeah, but I actually like Turntine better because the power is so awesome.
Turntine's a safer take, in my opinion. Like the bust factor, neither one of these kids are going to bust. But Turntine is, to me, the less likely. The thing I love about Turntine, Charlie Williams, our buddy on the road right now, he's at Euless Trinity checking out one of the best corners in the country. John Meredith, come to InsideTexas.com for all those updates. Charlie's been all over these two recruitments like nothing I've seen. And how Felix has turned into this competitive, motivated guy that wants to be the best in the country's position. Turntine is quiet. He is a quiet giant in a sense. Like, those guys when you walk into a room and there's about to be a fight and it's the guy in the corner that's not saying a word that you should really be watching. The guy that's not talking is just sitting there simmering, looking at you with that look. That's John Turntine. Every rep is serious to him. It is a battle. That quarterback is his family. And that is the disposition, I think, that makes him so effective.
Justin, you see this one from Alan McAda?
Yes. I can see a reality of that. When that reality became a potential reality? When Michael Fasusi signed with Oklahoma.
Makes sense.
Hey,
I'm
you can only pay. There's a payroll, brother. You got to stay in that cap.
I'm a big fan of Turntine. Ian, I'm not sure how much you've tracked this. If you saw him in person, you might wonder how much he weighs. He's listed, I think he was listed at like 265 throughout the course of the spring. And then it looks like he dropped a little weight, and that had a lot of coaches like freaking out a little bit. But it wasn't anything medical.
No,
it was his metabolism.
It was a freakish metabolism.
That's so dumb because when you watch him against defensive linemen, when they make impact, the defensive lineman goes flying back.
And no matter what weight it is.
Yeah,
and trust me, he's going to wear 300 pounds like a beautiful new suit.
He could probably maul at 285.
No question.
He doesn't need force is mass times acceleration.
They don't have to be this big. I try to tell parents that all the time.
He doesn't need as much M because he can generate so much A.
Here comes physics. We got Sheldon Cooper on this joker.
We're talking. We got all different subjects we're hitting today. That's the 4 prospects we wanted to talk about. Did y'all want to get to the? I'm going through offseason opponent storylines, and I know we talk a lot about OU on here, so we'll kind of save. We'll have that arrow in the. I know Ian will grant it this one arrow in the quiver, but I got to write a little bit about Diego Pavia and how that was a team that Texas had to take all they could handle. There were some mistakes, penalties, turnovers, things like that. But Pavia is coming back. He used the court system to his advantage. Made sure the NCAA cannot count his JUCO years against his eligibility. So he gets that 6th year. And as Roaster says, Paul's buddy, Justin's buddy. I think everybody likes Pavia around college football. Maybe not Alabama fans, but
you just respect the game.
Yeah,
game respects game.
And the thing is, not only is Pavia back on a team that went 6-6 in the regular season, then won their bowl, but Ian, he's returning his leading receiver in Eli Stowers. And they also got their second leading rusher in Cedric Alexander from Austin LBJ, I think. So a lot of the pieces that gave Texas struggles, tried to combine trouble and struggles. A lot of the pieces that gave Texas trouble last year, Pavia is there to lead them into Austin, and it's not going to be a easy, look ahead game to the bye. They're going to have to deal with him just like every other team is going to have to deal with him.
Hey, isn't it better that Texas got Vandy there first rather than having another year of Pavia and then going to Nashville the next year? I think them having them at home the second time actually helps Texas a little bit. And yes, we're talking about Vanderbilt. I
think it mostly depends on how healthy he is when he plays Texas. He was already pretty beat up when Texas got him last time. And honestly, they defended Vanderbilt really well. They got into trouble in that game because of
silliness. Kobe Black's pick 6 makes that a double-digit win.
Holding penalties, offensive struggles.
Batted balls at the line of scrimmage.
Batted balls at the line of – yeah, didn't they – Vanderbilt only scored off turnovers for the first, like, 3/4 of the game or something. Maybe the whole game. I don't remember. If they get a healthy Pavia with all those pieces, I think that's –
What would Joe, off the top of your head, when do they come? What part of the season do they come to Austin?
November 1st. So
he's going to be so banged up by then.
Yeah, he may be.
They may have to move Stowers back to his original high school position at quarterback.
The Vanderbilt schedule is they get LSU at home, Missouri at home, and then they go to Texas. So he may be beat up a little bit by that point. But
November, his style, Aztec Warrior. Yeah, he's going to be he'll be scarred. Let's put it that way.
I guess the point of that article is like, A, who else am I going to write about when it comes to Vanderbilt? But B, like, it just kind of shows that it's hard to look over anybody. And the other thing is that poses just an outlier schematically to what Texas is used to seeing. When Texas plays Ohio State, they're going to see a team that looks a lot like they are on offense. They're going to be able to out-talent San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston State. Florida is going to look kind of similar to them. Oklahoma runs an air raid-ish system. We'll see what Arbuckle does, but they'll be used to it. They probably won't see anything, pending Pavia's health. They probably won't see anything like that spread option attack until the A&M game, and even that looks a lot different too. So I think if Pavia is healthy, he's going to pose a unique threat. But aside from that, I'm not sure what Vanderbilt can get unless they do some more turnover luck like they did in Nashville.
We worried about that last year, though, and then Pete Kwiatkowski had the Longhorn defense totally dialed in on how to stop it. Coming off of the Georgia game, too, I think.
Yes.
So I feel less worried about that now. But,
I feel good once you told me November.
Yeah,
November 1st.
You don't want to see that team like in October. That'd be such a nightmare.
Yeah.
Deal with him when he's still
like getting Florida early. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll have played Alabama by that point, and I'm sure Kalen DeBoer doesn't want to see his team lose to the Commodores again. Ian, you'll be back on a little bit later, right, for the deep dive?
Yep. Me and Paul have been gathering questions from our intrepid readers of the board, those who have given us their hard-earned cash to subscribe to Inside Texas will get the privilege of asking questions that me and Paul will try to answer. And I looked at some of them. There's some good questions on there, and we'll be live doing that at I think 1 today. Wish I knew for sure.
I was about to say give him a time, boy, because I'd like to tune in too.
Yeah. When is that?
Homer will have it up here. So make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Live at 1.
1? All right,
yeah.
Perfect. So come back here at 1. You'll have Ian. You'll have Paul answering questions. And we'll try to get maybe some from the chat as well. And of course, head to InsideTexas.com. We're going to have recruiting updates. Charlie's on the road. We'll have more from Eric's got an article up. We'll have a lot of different insight to show over there as well. So
we'll have a new notebook up in about 5 minutes.
There we go. Oh, I thought we weren't going to say it. I'm joking. So
no, I'm
I know. I'm
doing here
with you. So
Ian wanted to, yeah.
All righty. Justin, thank you. Ian, thank you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on IT Live, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors.